We are talking about the subtle, insidious, and devastating damage inflicted upon a man's mental landscape by specific, deeply ingrained female personality structures. This isn't about minor disagreements or typical relationship friction. If you have ever felt constantly confused, perpetually exhausted, like you are forever walking on eggshells, or if you find yourself questioning your own memory and sanity within a relationship, you have been exposed to these dynamics. For too long, the narrative around relationship stress has focused solely on external events, infidelity, money problems, scheduling conflicts. But the real, chronic devastation comes from the architecture of the person you choose to share your life with. This is not a session of blame. This is an exercise in critical pattern recognition and mental self-defense. You deserve to know the mechanisms that are silently killing your peace of mind so you can preemptively protect the most vital asset you possess, your mental health. We are establishing the foundation for understanding how certain women are fundamentally structured to maximize relationship chaos and minimize partner stability. This pattern is global. We are all in this conversation together, recognizing these global patterns. Before we dive into the dense psychology, tell me where you are watching this from right now. Let us establish the scope of this reality. The first essential realization we must confront is the myth of the good intention. Many men operate under the assumption that their partner's chaotic behavior is accidental, stress-induced, or rooted in trauma that can be loved or fixed away. This is the most dangerous form of self-deception. When certain personality traits dominate, the psychological damage they cause is not a byproduct of bad luck. It is a structural necessity of that personality type, maintaining its equilibrium. Consider the cost of living with chronic emotional instability. Your mental health operates much like a high-performance computer. When you are entangled with a woman exhibiting these destructive traits, 80% of your mental processing power is constantly diverted to decoding her emotional state, mitigating potential conflict, managing her insecurity, and trying to predict the next manufactured crisis. This constant high-alert state, what psychologists call chronic hypervigilance, is the ruin of a stable life. You stop focusing on closing that business deal because you are worried about the cryptic, passive-aggressive text message you received this morning. Your capacity for joy and spontaneous action is replaced by anticipation and dread. Your nervous system is constantly bathed in cortisol. The specific traits we will identify are not simple flaws. They are deeply rooted patterns involving manipulation, emotional dysregulation, chronic dissatisfaction, and an inability to maintain genuine, lasting interpersonal intimacy. We are looking at women who, by their psychological nature, cannot offer the safety, predictability, and genuine support required for a man to thrive. They offer turbulence disguised as passion, drama disguised as depth, and control disguised as need. A woman exhibiting these ruinous traits fundamentally believes that her internal state, her emotional volatility, her past traumas, her current anxieties, is the responsibility of her partner to manage and resolve. She demands emotional labor without reciprocating stability or consistency. The moment you fail to meet this impossible standard of perpetual emotional sustenance, she externalizes the blame, turning the failure into proof of your inadequacy rather than acknowledging her own structural deficiencies. This externalization of blame is key to the destruction of your mental health. It attacks your internal narrative. You begin to internalize her chaos as your fault. This is how high-functioning men, stable, rational, capable men, are reduced to anxious, insecure shells. We must also establish the distinction between genuine emotional sensitivity and strategic emotional manipulation. These 5 traits often involve a high degree of emotional expression, but that expression is utilized as a weapon to control outcomes rather than an authentic communication of internal experience. When a man's priority becomes managing his partner's emotions, his own needs disappear entirely. This is the road to resentment, burnout, and clinical depression. In plain terms, she is not just making you feel stressed, she is physically impairing your ability to think clearly and manage your life. The sustained pressure deprioritizes your analytical thinking in favor of survival and reactive behavior. We are identifying these traits so you can move from reactive firefighting to strategic assessment. You must understand that these specific traits are not manageable through patience, kindness, or therapy, not unless the woman herself undertakes years of intensive, accountable psychological restructuring, which is rare. The traits are often too deeply embedded in her identity. For the man, the only predictable outcome of remaining committed to a woman dominated by these psychological frameworks is the ruin of his own internal world. The foundational principle of self-preservation must be this: the quality of your life is directly proportional to the quality of your relationships, and the quality of your relationships is defined by the fundamental personality structures of the people you allow into your inner circle. Allowing any of these 5 traits to dominate your partnership is accepting a permanent, high-interest loan on your future mental stability. In the segments that follow, we will dissect each of the 5 traits in detail, providing the behavioral red flags, the academic context, and the long-term mental health consequences for the man involved. But before we get there, we must sit with the initial, uncomfortable realization. Your mental anguish is not random. It is not bad luck. Acknowledging this reality is the first step toward regaining your internal strength. This is the hard truth that changes everything. The fact is, the problem often lies in the fundamental psychological framework of the person you chose. Recognizing this reality is the moment of your liberation. We want a phrase that locks in this essential realization, a statement of clarity and self-commitment. Right now in the comments below, declare this breakthrough. You are witnessing content the mainstream culture actively censors and suppresses because the truth about these destructive relationship dynamics benefits only you. You demand the unvarnished reality, and this channel is your source. You secure your future clarity by joining this community. Stay alert. Do not miss it. The subtle, insidious destroyer of a man's peace is never the overtly malicious woman. She carries an aura of appealing fragility that promises depth, but hides a profound psychological liability that guarantees your eventual collapse. We are not talking about simple flaws or mistakes. We are talking about deeply rooted personality structures that function as a perpetual black hole for stability and mental resilience. If you believe your strength or your love can cure her decades of ingrained mental dysfunction, you are signing up for a war you cannot win, using your own sanity as the collateral. Before we delve further into the specific traits that studies link directly to severe male mental health decline, I want to know where this message is landing right now. We are building a global community dedicated to seeing relationship realities clearly, and your input confirms this necessary conversation is resonating everywhere. We discussed the foundational crisis of women aging out of their peak attractiveness and the biological panic this induces. This trait is far more complex than simple complaining. Chronic victimhood is a comprehensive worldview, a deeply integrated mechanism where the individual fundamentally believes that their life outcomes, especially negative ones, are the product of external forces, men, society, systems, luck, or bad timing, rather than their own choices and personal agency. Psychologically, this provides immense temporary relief because it prevents the painful and exhausting process of self-accountability. But for the partner, it means accepting a permanent role, rescuer, therapist, and inevitably, the next villain in her unfolding narrative. She shares carefully curated stories of her past trauma, her terrible exes, the unfairness she has faced in the workplace, or the lack of support from her family. This narrative construction is incredibly powerful. It triggers the male instinct to fix and protect. This precisely is the trap. The moment life presents a normal challenge, a financial setback, a mild disagreement, or even just daily stress, the chronic victim reflex kicks in. Her inability to internalize failures means that when the relationship hits turbulence, the blame must be externalized, and since you are the closest external factor, you become the target. This blame shifting does immense damage to your mental health. You are simultaneously trying to provide security and stability while constantly being told, through implication or direct accusation, that you are the source of her distress, or that you are insufficiently meeting her insurmountable emotional needs. You find yourself walking on perpetual eggshells, carefully managing your language, avoiding difficult topics, and censoring your own emotional reactions, all in an exhaustive attempt to maintain her manufactured peace. Your self-worth slowly erodes because the central belief of the chronic victim, that life is fundamentally unfair and people are untrustworthy, necessarily demands that even the most loving partner must be viewed with suspicion and skepticism. You are never fully trusted. You are only provisionally adequate until the next inevitable betrayal, in her mind, occurs. Furthermore, this trait sabotages personal growth within the relationship. A chronic victim cannot engage in true conflict resolution because recognizing her own contribution to a problem invalidates her entire worldview. The argument ceases to be about the issue, e.g., finances or household duties, and becomes an immediate defense of her personal narrative. This continuous demand for unilateral emotional labor and forced empathy drains your capacity for joy and connection, transforming the relationship from a sanctuary into an exhausting psychological battlefield. This leads us seamlessly into the second personality trait that acts as a mental health wrecking ball: high antagonism masked by selective niceness, often manifesting as perpetual comparison disease. We touched on comparison earlier in the context of dating market dynamics, but when it is integrated into the core personality structure, it becomes toxic. For women who operated in the high-choice dating marketplace of their 20s and early 30s, the brain learned to perpetually scan for the next upgrade. Even when they finally settle for stability, that mental operating system, does not shut down. Instead of comparing you to the next potential suitor, it begins comparing you to the idealized ghost of her past high-excitement relationships, or comparing your lifestyle and resources to those of her friends who married perceived high-status men. The result is a chronic, low-grade dissatisfaction that translates directly into antagonism towards the partner who provides the stability she claims to want. She resents you for being reliable because reliability is inherently less exciting than the chaos she pursued when she was younger. This antagonism manifests in several devastating ways that destroy a man's mental health. First, relentless criticism. Your hobbies, your career advancement, your fitness level, even the way you handle money, all become subjects for subtle, corrosive critique. This is not constructive feedback. It is projection born of her own dissatisfaction. Second, manufactured conflict and intimacy withholding. High antagonistic women often create crises to inject drama and temporary excitement back into a stable life. This teaches the partner that stability is contingent and that peace is only temporary. This emotional volatility triggers high cortisol levels in men, leading to chronic stress, sleep disturbance, and an inability to focus on external goals, like career or health, because all psychological resources are consumed by managing the relationship's internal instability. The withholding of intimacy is perhaps the most destructive aspect. As the studies confirm, when the commitment is driven by strategic necessity rather than authentic desire, the physical connection suffers profoundly. For the stable, committed man, this lack of genuine physical connection with his chosen partner creates profound loneliness and deep self-doubt about his attractiveness and value, further compounding the mental health decline initiated by the constant criticism. You are physically close but emotionally and sexually isolated, fulfilling the role of provider while receiving the emotional warmth of a roommate. The core problem underpinning both chronic victimhood and high antagonism is a fundamental lack of self-integration and genuine emotional maturity, consequences of delayed commitment, and the prolonged pursuit of external validation during peak years. A woman who has learned that she can always exit and find a new partner, a new source of excitement, a new validation narrative, a new temporary solution, has fundamentally crippled her capacity for deep, enduring pair bonding. In the context of marriage, this pattern means you are perpetually dating a shadow of the woman who existed before commitment. You have married a person whose psychological toolkit is geared entirely toward dating market leverage and exit strategies, not enduring partnership and collaborative problem solving. Your identity becomes intertwined with her emotional regulation, and when she fails to regulate, your mental health collapses alongside hers. You must recognize that when these traits are present, they are not temporary behaviors you can negotiate away. Your attempts to apply logic, kindness, or stability to these psychological patterns will not fix them. They will only provide new opportunities for her to externalize blame and weaponize comparison. You are attempting to fight a psychological virus with structural steel. The depth of this challenge requires men to be ruthless in their pattern recognition. The sweet, supportive performance she is running for you now must be measured against the history she is desperately trying to hide. If so, understand that you are not the exception. You are simply the current provider who will inevitably face the same emotional demolition experienced by those who came before you. Your mental health is too valuable to be sacrificed on the altar of her unexamined history and chronic psychological dissatisfaction. You are not just choosing a wife. You are choosing the emotional climate of your home, the well-being of your future children, and the durability of your own psychological foundation. Committing to a woman defined by these traits is choosing perpetual instability, chronic anxiety, and the slow, inevitable poisoning of your spirit. The next traits we analyze involve the financial instability and entitlement complex that emerge from this mindset, and how they combine to create a deeply precarious domestic environment that guarantees long-term stress and resentment. Understanding these final patterns is essential for any man seeking to protect his resources and sanity. This clarity we are sharing is crucial for men everywhere who are tired of being confused by modern relationship dynamics. To solidify this commitment and help spread this necessary truth, I want you to share a powerful phrase in the comments below. Use the phrase, "I choose reality over performance." Drop that exact phrase in the comments so we can see the community standing together on this vital recognition. This message resonated with you. I know it did. Now, lock in your commitment to truth by hitting the like button on this video, acknowledging that you value clarity over comfort. We are a brotherhood built on pattern recognition, and you will ensure you never miss the deep dives into female psychology that equip you for success and safety in the modern world. The next segment is coming soon, and it will expose the financial traps and manipulative strategies that define the entitlement complex in modern relationships. That revelation is too important to miss. You need to stay tuned for the final critical piece of this analysis. You have spent time understanding the mechanics of female psychology, recognizing the subtle yet devastating patterns that signal profound relationship risk. We have analyzed the core personality structures, the 5 defining traits that, according to decades of relational data and psychological studies, guarantee the emotional destruction of the man who commits to them. If you missed the context, if you didn't recognize the corrosive nature of chronic victimhood, the relentless need for antagonism, the pathological comparison disease, the demanding entitlement, or the deep-seated inability to form authentic emotional bonds, you need to understand the ultimate inevitable cost. This isn't about navigating a difficult relationship. This is about surviving a relationship engineered to systematically dismantle your self-worth, your clarity, and your peace. She consumes energy, stability, and sanity without ever offering replenishment. The price of her presence is the slow, agonizing death of your mental health, and the studies confirm this is not hyperbole. Where are you standing right now, taking in this information? I need to know the community of men who are seeking this clarity. Let us acknowledge the geographical scope of this shared modern crisis. The first psychological collapse these personalities guarantee is the complete erosion of your internal compass, driven by chronic victimhood and lack of accountability. The psychological damage here is insidious. You start questioning your own perception of reality. You know you are being reasonable, yet she manufactures a reality where you are the perpetrator. Your brain becomes hypervigilant, constantly scanning the environment for the next trigger, the next manufactured crisis. You are fighting a ghost, an opponent who will never admit defeat, because admitting responsibility means dismantling the very foundation of her identity. Next, consider the constant, relentless pressure applied by the pathological comparison disease. Her relationship history, or even her social media scrolling, has trained her brain to view you not as a unique, appreciated partner, but as an inventory item to be weighed against an idealized fantasy or a previous exciting hookup. This comparison isn't conscious. It's a deep psychological habit, a neurological pattern of seeking the next upgrade. Your mental health suffers because this trait demands that you live perpetually in a state of performance anxiety. You invest your time, your resources, your emotional vulnerability, only to sense deep down that she is waiting for someone better, someone richer, someone more exciting to walk through the door. This destroys your confidence, isolates you from others, because she won't introduce you to people who represent her better options, and breeds a profound, soul-crushing insecurity that is not inherent to you, but entirely manufactured by her psychological framework. The third source of ruin is the high-octane drama of antagonism and need for conflict. Stability feels boring to the woman whose personality thrives on conflict. Thus, she will subconsciously, or overtly, generate crises to inject intensity back into the relationship. She seeks the dopamine hit of conflict resolution, but she needs the conflict first. Your home ceases to be a sanctuary and becomes a battleground. You live in dread of walking in the door after work, fearing the next accusation, the next fight over nothing. You become an operator managing a crisis, not a human being enjoying a connection. Coupled with this is the insidious influence of covert narcissism and entitlement. You are expected to deliver a 5-star existence, financially, emotionally, physically, while she operates from a baseline of being owed. When you inevitably fail to meet her unachievable standards, the response is contempt, criticism, and gaslighting. Her entitlement teaches you that your boundaries are irrelevant. Her criticism teaches you that you are fundamentally defective. The ultimate psychological blow is realizing that your commitment and sacrifice are not viewed as partnership, but as rent due for the privilege of being near her. Finally, the despair of emotional distance and inability to form. True intimacy seals the mental health fate of the committed partner. This woman, having practiced emotional distance for years to protect herself during periods of relational instability, cannot simply switch on genuine connection. You can share a bed, a mortgage, and a name, but you will still feel profoundly alone. The male brain is wired for purpose and genuine connection within a pair bond. When that connection is revealed to be a phantom, the result is deep, existential loneliness. You are committed, but isolated. This isolation often leads to crippling depression because you have nowhere to turn. You cannot discuss the truth that your partner is emotionally bankrupt without being labeled controlling or cruel. The aggregate result of these 5 personality traits is not merely an unhappy marriage. It is a clinical psychological disorder induced in the male partner. Studies on relational trauma confirm that sustained exposure to gaslighting, chronic conflict, and emotional abandonment leads to symptoms mirroring complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD. You are mentally broken down by design. This is the ultimate non-negotiable lesson you must internalize. Pattern recognition is not misogyny, it is self-preservation. You cannot commit to a woman defined by these 5 traits and expect a different outcome simply because you are a good man. Your goodness will only serve as fuel for her pathology. Your stability will be the platform from which she launches her next crisis. The single greatest mistake a man makes is confusing his commitment capacity with her relational capacity. You are capable of devotion, stability, and enduring partnership. The choice is stark and immediate. Do you choose temporary validation and loneliness within a commitment, or do you choose the clarity and peace of self-respect? The only way to win this game is to refuse to play by her rules. You are not equipped to fix years of emotional damage, and attempting to do so will cost you everything you value, starting with your sanity. Your commitment should be given only to the woman who demonstrates, through consistent, decades-long behavior, accountability, appreciation, stability, humility, and the capacity for genuine, unconditioned intimacy. Anything less is a suicide mission for your mental health. Now you have the full picture. This information is a shield, but a shield is useless if you do not wield it. You must commit right now to prioritizing your clarity and your internal peace above all else. Use this phrase as a declaration of intent, a psychological anchor that cements the hard-won clarity you have earned today. The phrase is, "I see the pattern." Type it, commit to it, and use it as your non-negotiable line in the sand. This channel exists to serve one purpose: to give you the operational playbook for modern masculinity, stripped of the comforting lies the culture tells you. If you have recognized the truth here and are ready to stop making decisions that benefit everyone except yourself, you must not remain unconnected. Hit that like button now to signal your commitment to clarity, and subscribe instantly to ensure the algorithms cannot hide this essential truth from you again. You deserve protection, and we provide it here. We have only just begun to expose the strategies used to keep you emotionally confused and financially depleted. Do not miss what is coming next. The next transmission is not merely a video, It is your essential guide to shielding your legacy and your future from unforeseen catastrophic financial risk. Be ready.